Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of District Administration's Solution Showcase. My name is Kurt Isley-Durley. I'm the magazine's web seminar editor, and I'll be your host. In Solution Showcase, we profile new and innovative products and solutions that can help you meet your district's needs in a short video overview. Our guests for this edition are Douglas H. Clements. He's the Kennedy Endowed Chair in Early Learning at the University of Denver. And we're also joined by Julie Sarama. She is the Kennedy Endowed Chair in Innovative Learning Technology, also at the University of Denver. Doug and Julie are going to talk to us today about math intervention and also talk about a brand new product from McGraw-Hill called SRA Number Worlds. So, Doug and Julie, it's so great to have you both with us. I will turn it over to you at this point. Welcome to Solution Showcase.
Thank you very much, Kurt. We'd like to present a few ideas about the Common Core, about learning trajectories, and about interventions that address both of those. Let's get started. We know that math is increasingly important in our society. Goodness sakes, 78% of adults can't explain how to compute an interest paid on a loan, and a shocking 58% can't calculate a 10% tip for a lunch bill. We need better mathematics from birth throughout the age span. And school mathematics isn't working well enough for enough students. Internationally, our students aren't competitive with other countries. But more shocking, really, is that this isn't the same for all students. Take a look at this, for instance. On the right, that's the same data. It's just in a linear form with Japan at the top and Netherlands and Hungary, and you notice United States a little bit more towards the bottom. But surprisingly, perhaps, the best funded U.S. students score fairly high, second in the world, but those in the bottom 10% of socioeconomic status, those that come from low resource communities, they perform just above Nigeria and Swaziland. So these are the children that frequently fill the Tier 2 and Tier 3 levels. That is why prevention and intervention are critical for kids. Response to intervention needs high-quality standards. We need to understand the learning trajectories for students. We need to have instruction as part of that learning trajectory that moves students along. And we need assessments that connect all of these. What we know from those international comparisons is that less is more, that sustained time on fewer key concepts is what's going to help these kids, especially Tier 2 and Tier 3 kids, advance in a satisfactory manner. So let's start with standards. The Common Core state standards were invented based on two major design principles, focus and coherence. Focus is another way of saying less is more. We need to avoid a mile-wide and inch-deep curriculum and allow each student to think, practice, and integrate new ideas into a growing knowledge structure. We need to focus so that we have time as teachers to be patient with students' learning.
We also have to worry about coherence. Coherence provides the opportunity to make connections between mathematical ideas, and that happens both between grades and within a grade and across grade. Coherence is important because mathematics instruction isn't just a checklist. So instead of standards that are supposed to be just now, day 1 I do this, day 2 I do this, day 3 I do this, we want interrelated and powerful ideas that connect over time and between each other, just in terms of kids making connections between different areas of mathematics. So for example, in grade 3, there should be a connection between the standards that have to do with multiplication and division area, because we're multiplying in order to find area and building up our understanding of multiplication through area, and the properties of operations, knowing that multiplication is commutative, and that understanding that we can build up new facts by knowing some facts.
This contrasts with all too often the usual United States approach to curriculum, in which K through 12 we tend to do all the topics. We need to focus in on those topics that are most important. Let's just end this emphasis on the Common Core with a couple of myths versus facts about the Common Core. Some people have said that the Common Core are really only skills. That's a myth. It involves concepts, skills, and problem solving across topics. It also involves practices, making sense of problems, reasoning abstractly, modeling with mathematics, looking for and using patterns of reasoning and thinking. But Common Core does require fluencies, and you see a list of them there. And these fluencies are especially important for kids at Tier 2 and 3, and we'll return to that later. Other people said, oh, it's a national curriculum. No, first of all, it's not a curriculum. It's what, not how to teach. It's the key building blocks, building a road for teachers, students, and parents to understand what are the important ideas and how do they develop in sequence. Others have said that the Common Core is not based on research. Hey, the fact is we need more research now that the Common Core is out. But it's a myth that it's not based on research. We used a considerable number of international research done in the United States, research on kids with special needs. These are the kind of things on which the Common Core is based. Some people say Common Core is the lowest common denominator. No. Even the high-performing states, remediation is needed for many kids in college. The Common Core addresses these kind of deficits. It has more mathematical integrity than any state standards do, and it meets the highest international standards. Teachers were also involved in the Common Core. Teachers, supervisors like yourselves, the voices were critical from all these people. They were involved in all phases of it. Now we'd like to talk about just a little bit of what might be missed when you see the Common Core.
Well, frequently looking at a standard such as this shown here in second grade, they develop, discuss, and use efficient, accurate, and generalizable methods to compute sums and differences of whole numbers. Very often that's read as compute sums and differences of whole numbers. And what's left out is, to us and to, I think, the writers, the real meat behind the entire standard. Develop, discuss, and use. The students are really required to use their own strategies, to be able to look at other people's strategies, discuss those strategies, and figure out what are the most efficient, accurate, and generalizable methods. So it's not just sticking with idiosyncratic strategies that might work in certain situations, and it's not ignoring what would be known as the standard algorithm. It's an understanding that these are different approaches to solving this problem, that they're mathematically accurate, and that some are more efficient than others in different circumstances.
Julie, though, some people might say to you, yeah, that's for the bright kids. But we're talking about Tier 2 and Tier 3 kids. Right,
and we have plenty of evidence that understanding different ways and starting kids where they are matters more for those kids who are struggling. And can I also say that, that coming down and saying to those kids who are struggling that I have a good way of solving a problem, and I'm going to teach you the good way of solving the problem, and that should be enough. There's a person that I work with who always says that if you ask people directions, the first thing, if someone calls you up and says, I'm lost, the first thing you say to them is, where are you? You wouldn't say, well, the first thing you should do is come to my house, and then I'll give you directions from my house how to get to where you want to be. But we're teaching, it's a nice metaphor, because it says, I need to know where you are first, and that's where formative assessment comes in. But it also is where this develop, discuss, and use methods comes in, because it says to kids, how would you solve this problem? And it allows them to give their ideas, and then we can guide them from where they are into something that's more mathematical and rigorous.
Nice. Another thing that might be missed with the Common Core is that when we wrote the Common Core, we didn't start with the standards. We started with learning trajectories. We started by telling stories of how children learn, research-based stories, how children learn K through 12, these various topics. We believe learning trajectories are the key to what Julie was saying about the powerful technique of formative assessment. Learning trajectories have three parts: a goal, a developmental progression, and instructional activities. In the present day, research on mathematics goals contributes to standards and so on, but these are often disconnected. A good scientific approach to learning trajectories weaves the three parts together, and that's what we tried to do when we wrote the Common Core, a little bit, although the Common Core isn't a curriculum, but when we develop our curricula, that's what we do. The mathematics, the developmental progression of levels of thinking through which kids pass on their way to developing the mathematical understanding, and the specific instructional techniques and tasks that we use to move kids from one level to the next are all integrated and based on a common body of research. So remember, when we talked about research to intervention, we need high-quality standards, we need trajectories, we need instruction in those trajectories that move students along, and we need assessments that do all three. That's how you do formative assessment well. Julie's metaphor of you have to know where somebody who's lost is before you can help them speaks to this so powerfully, because it only is useful for these kids to develop if you know what they know and what they don't know, what their strengths and what their weaknesses are. But the research for instance, the research, I was on the National Math Advisory Panel, we reviewed research that said that formative assessment was very powerful, but we also found out that indeed formative assessment is powerful, but only when information is used to determine the instruction, when experts offer advice. How? By developing learning trajectories and linking with powerful curricular resources. Curriculum's pretty critical, right? This came from Russ Whitehurst, and he says that we get a low effect size for things like charter schools, for preschool programs do a little better, some of them. But look at the bottom. The highest effect size was more effective math curricula, and that's what we've been trying to build over the years. So, together, this has implications for prevention, starting in pre-K, preventing kids from being behind, and intervention. What do we do when kids are in kindergarten through grade 8 and need something? Well, that's why we're working with the Number Worlds with our building block software. Number Worlds is a intervention, a curriculum that you can use to do formative assessment by assessing where kids are and by having powerful activities that move them along. It engages and adapts to learning to accelerate math success, to prepare students to meet Common Core standards, engage them with embedded games and digital resources and project-based learning, not just a skill sheet after skill sheet. And it includes assessment so that formative assessment can be a powerful part of teachers' interaction with these kids. It's got integrated our building block software, which we have loads of research as an effective kind of device, and has online assessment and reporting so that we can monitor where the kids go.
Well, and I think it's important to say that the online assessment and reporting, again, shouldn't be taken as, wow, we are over-assessing these kids, we're over-testing these kids. But if you take it in the spirit of, we want to know where the kids are so we know how to help, then it becomes a tool rather than a burden.
Absolutely. Well said. And so the Number Worlds approach is that we work in Level A with kids developing well-developed counting and quantity schemas. In Level B, they develop central conceptual structures for single-digit numbers. So the whole name Number Worlds implies that what we're trying to do is have kids link different representations of number. The spoken number word, the numeral, but also dot patterns, as opposed to, for instance, measurement models of number and number lines and the like. And then level C, students link their conceptual structures of the number to more formal number systems.
Great. Thank you so much, Doug and Julie. That's a really interesting, really impressive presentation. Now, let me ask you a couple questions here. First, what do you recommend for identifying which students are in need of an intervention?
Yeah, it's important to screen populations. And this would be, the research is quite clear that anybody that you suspect might be Tier 2 or Tier 3, from parent reports, teacher reports, and other kind of, any kind of screenings or the like, but also those on the edge of Tier 1 and who might be in Tier 2. We need to get fast assessments. They should be 10 to 20 minutes long. They should highlight the most important mathematics, and they should just help us identify who we put into a more intensive diagnostic situation. For example, our team assessment for young children is a short form that fits those kind of criteria, that doesn't take very long to give, but will just give you an indication of what children need a more intensive diagnosis. Screenings and these kind of assessments, research shows, are most powerful if they're done at the beginning of the year and again in the middle of the year, each year of these kids' school career.
Great, thank you. And that leads me right into my next question there. You mentioned the most important mathematics. Which topics and skills are the most important?
The research, we believe that there's multiple topics that are important for mathematics, but core needs to be whole number understandings and operations for kids from birth, really, up to grades 2 or 3. And then when we get into the upper grades, we need to make sure those whole number understandings are there, but then fractional understanding seems to be the most important focus for the kids after they've achieved that whole number understanding.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Now, what about the approach to teaching? Is there anything that the research says or anything that you recommend in terms of a basic teaching approach that should be used?
Well, there's some research to suggest that explicit teaching is important. Doug, you want to follow?
Yeah, it's important for the teaching to not be limited to, for instance, like we said, the drill sheets that kids sometimes get in intervention programs that lack the emphasis on concepts and problem solving and the like. But it has to be explicit. It can't be laissez-faire. It can't be, when we say kids that need to learn concepts and they need to be engaged in develop, discuss, and use, like Julie was talking about before, this does not mean that we don't make explicit the kind of concepts, understanding, and strategies. Sometimes Tier 2 and especially Tier 3 kids, even given the opportunity, do not, for instance, invent their own strategies. But they can hear about somebody else's. The teacher can do a little modeling, but that's how the teaching should start, not how it should end. In other words, a teacher who wants to get kids to understand and to be involved in the mathematics can start by modeling a problem-solving strategy. But that's the start of the teaching. Next, she has to see, what did the kid get from that? Can the kid take that and make it their own? Can they extend it? Can they apply it to different kind of problems? And if they have the child think aloud, talk aloud about their solution strategies, discuss their solution strategies. If you've got more than one child, share solution strategies between the kids. This kind of explication, this kind of bringing these strategies and concepts, mathematical ideas and skills to an explicit level of awareness, research has identified this as very important and very much in contrast to, for instance, silent work on hundreds of facts.
Okay, great. And that leads me to another question here. What about drill and practice on basic facts? Does that still play a role here in what you're describing?
It can, and should. But what we should do is not run to drill and practice until kids have achieved an understanding of the concepts behind it. And then, once it comes time for practice, what are different ways to practice on drill sheets then? Games and other things like that are often used in the number world curriculum.
Right, games that are intrinsically motivating. When you play very often math games are sort of seen as the extra thing that you leave off when you're implementing a math curriculum. They're seen as the maybe do as a treat on Friday type things, and very often teachers will substitute something that a different game that they've perhaps gotten somewhere else. When I'm in class.
Or they might even think games are for fun.
Right.
These kids need skills.
Right.
And so I'm going to take those out and I'm going to look over here and pull in a worksheet or something.
So one of the things that I do is when I look at a math game with teachers is I'll say, so how many problems did we play the game, and how many problems did you do while doing that game? What would you have preferred to do? 30 problems, which you just did, or play this game, which you got 30 problems worth of practice, and you're motivated to do well. Games that are not that are just about at the practice level are very important. They build fluency. You just need to be able to pick the right game at the right time, and a good curriculum helps you do that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Doug and Julie. That's really interesting. Now, to our audience, I put some contact information on the screen here. If you're interested in finding out more about this new product, SRA Number Worlds, you can go to the URL that you see on the screen there. Alternately, if you'd like to be directly contacted with some more information, you can fill out the form that you see on your screen below this video. And so while the audience does that, if they so choose, Doug and Julia just invite you to give us a quick wrap-up of what we looked at here today.
So I hope you enjoyed what we talked about today. To briefly review some of the most important ideas we talked about, we need better mathematics in our society. We need to especially help those children from low resource communities or those with mathematical difficulties or disabilities to be conversant with mathematics. Everybody needs mathematics. Even those who it appears to us to have no particular quote-unquote talent for mathematics, everybody needs to develop their mathematic potential for their careers and their lives as far as possible. We've tried to present a few ideas about good core standards, how to focus in and make mathematics more focused but also more coherent for kids, how to use learning trajectories to do formative assessment in a powerful way, and how curricular resources can be used and really should be used as powerful tools to help teachers do that. Thank you very much, and I hope you look at some of the things on the web and pursue these ideas at your leisure.
Excellent. Thank you once again, Doug and Julie. Thanks so much for being with us. And to our audience, that's it for this edition of District Administration Solution Showcase. Thank you so much for watching.